Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Pro Lemon SEO video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be talking about hardware. More specifically, what sort of hardware do you need to really start working with SEO, working on websites, building websites, developing certain types of content, all of those things. And this is sort of in preparation for my own personal training that I'll be doing soon. And I think it's really web development, work from home, IT development has never been in a more affordable space in its entire history. Back in 2020 and during COVID, it would have been really expensive considering everybody was working from home. There was the Bitcoin boom, but now prices have gone down significantly, and the power of certain components have really increased to the point where even the cheapest machine can really help you as somebody who's starting out perform decently so long as you know what each part does and um, how each one performs and what choices you have. Okay, so this over here is PC Pot Picker. It's a really good website for just building and pricing out devices. Okay, so one of the main things you've got to know is that developers, or myself personally as a developer, I enjoy working on laptops, but I also have a very big fondness of building PCs. Now, my current device is relatively powerful for what I do on my day to day, as well as gaming. And I don't really need much more than that, but I've got a more powerful PC I'm in the works of building that's really going to be for really high-end development, rendering, and all of that. You don't have to worry about that. This is focusing strictly on you want to build websites, you want to maybe sometimes create certain forms of content in Illustrator or Photoshop, and you want something that's reliable day to day, but also for work. Okay. Now, first and foremost, you will see here that there are several components over here: CPU, CPU cooler, motherboard, memory, storage, video card, case, power supply, operating system, and monitor. I'm going to ignore these last two, operating system and monitor. For SEO in general, you can just work on Windows. Okay. If you do want to just buy a turnkey solution, Mac might be a good spot to be. But I know they can also be expensive and they aren't always for everybody. So instead, we are going to be looking at building you up a PC for work and maybe some light editing and maybe gaming as well. And then we're going to transition to certain laptops you might be able to purchase in similar price ranges that you can work with. Okay, so first and foremost, CPU. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. This is going to be your bread and butter when it comes to really building your PC, especially for work-related tasks. Now, CPUs are really intricate and they're really interesting, but what we're looking at primarily is the core count, as well as this optimal speeds. Okay, CPUs in the last 2 to 3 years have really become powerful enough that even low-end decent CPUs can perform for basically anything you need. And I'll be going through various use cases as we do this. Now, CPUs come in two primary manufacturers, Intel and AMD. You're really not going to find or want to use anybody but these, and they're really, really powerful, but the prices fluctuate a lot. Okay. Now, for me personally, I always say if you're looking at something on the cheaper side, but something that will still perform, the Ryzen 5 5600X is an excellent middle ground CPU. It's very powerful. Its performance, it is excellent. If you are really on a budget, I would maybe go for the Ryzen 5 3600. That is also a very good CPU. But if you want to keep up to date with the most modern version, the Ryzen 5 7600X is also an excellent addition. What do these mean? These basically refer to the core count and the performance. Okay, so generally you get the Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7 series. Really for video editing, you want to do stuff more heavy, but if we're talking about purely SEO and web development programming, and you're not going to be doing multiple highly complex pieces of code, Ryzen 5 series is more than enough. You will never really need anything more than this. Okay, so it's got 6 cores if you're going with the AMD route. It's got 3.7 gigahertz. Don't really have to worry about that. The boost clock goes up to 4.6, which is excellent. It's got a very low TDP, right? So total power draw at any given moment at 65 watts. Okay, if you're going for the Intel, I would skew towards the i5 or the i3 even, if we can find one. The i5 or the i3. The i5-12400F is a really powerful CPU. This is Intel. It's a little bit cheaper than the 5600. If you do want to go with that, I would recommend this. It's got a lower boost clock and a lower performance clock. So if you want to, I'm just going to make this a Ryzen PC, and I'm just going to go with this one here. So what this is going to allow us to do, it's going to allow us to have multiple tabs open. It's going to allow us to do multiple performance threads. It has multiple performance threads. That's going to allow us to do basically work on multiple programs. Okay, if you sending emails and that, this doesn't really matter. But if you're building a website and you've got multiple things happening, if you're building it offline, this is really powerful. It's a really good CPU. We don't really have to go for a cooler. The cooler that comes with the CPU is going to be perfectly fine. We don't really care about thermals here. We're just trying to get performance and cost down as low as possible. Then we're going to choose a motherboard. Now, because we're going with the 5600, this means that we're not going to go to DDR5 RAM. Don't worry about what that is. That's just the newest version of RAM. We're going to stick to DDR4, which is going to be more than enough for our performance needs. Okay. What now we're going to do is we're going to find a really good, decent motherboard. Now you can go for the B550 gaming motherboard. It's a good motherboard, or you can go for the Gigabyte B550M. If you're really on crunch, I am going to go for the actually, no, that's not the one I'm looking for. I'm going to go for the B550 because it works. It has everything we need. I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to add it in there. Okay. Now for memory, when you're working in today's age, 8 gigabytes for anything really is not enough unless you're an Apple. I would go for at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. Doesn't have to be high performance RAM. The Corsair Vengeance LPX 16 gigabyte is more than enough. RAM acts as the sort of volatile state of all your programs. When something is running, it runs your RAM. Because we're not doing anything that requires a large amount of video processing, that's more than enough. For storage, I will always say 512 gigabytes is fine if you're just doing regular work, but I would jump for maybe a 1 terabyte. You don't have to go for a high speed performance memory, but I think the Samsung Evo Plus is more than worth it. Trust me, it's a little bit pricey, but in the long term, it's really going to perform best for you. Okay. Now, if you are going to be working on things like Photoshop and Illustrator, the CPU here should be fine. But if you know you're going to be working on highly complex pieces of machinery or highly complex pieces for your clients, or you're going to be doing a lot of interactive JavaScript coding with lots of elements involved, I would go for a video card. If not, this is perfectly fine, I think, along with the standard case and power supply. That's going to cost you around $414. If you do want to jump for a video card, you don't have to jump into the RTX range, right? Basically, that's NVIDIA's highest end. You don't have to worry about that. What you can go for is maybe something like the, where is it? Radeon 6600. Excellent graphics card on the low end for this. Remember, this is an add-on. This is not something you absolutely need, but I think it's a great addition if you know you're going to want to be doing any gaming or video or graphical content on your computer. The case doesn't really matter because we're not trying to optimize speed and performance here. Let's just load this together. Sorry, just give it a moment. Okay, we don't really care about a high performance case. The deep cool is fine. We can even go for the Eclipse one here, so long as it is compatible with your motherboard and the size is correct. That's fine. We just add it in there, and then we just add a power supply. So you'll see here, your estimated wattage here is going to be about 300 watts. If you don't take the graphics card, by the way, that really pushes the prices of everything down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this Corsair CX50M, and I'm just going to add that in. All right, this is a really good Corsair. Anything with Corsair is really good in general. So I'll just take that, and you will see that in total we're coming to $750. If you remove the graphics card, it brings us right back down to around $534. Okay, so if you're just doing work, for example, this should last you easily 3 to 4 to 5 years without needing to be upgraded, so long as you maintain it properly. This is going to be for anything that you really need to do in terms of work, for SEO, content writing, email, video. Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that. It's not going to really handle video editing very well, but you can even do a little bit of that if you're willing to be very, very patient. Okay. Now this here is we're going to take a look at laptops, all right? Laptops that I think you should definitely take a look at in terms of what it is you're going to be doing. I am going to be looking at just general Intel MSI laptops here. MSI is usually a bit pricier. My laptop is an MSI laptop. Um, in general, if you really want to just have something that's on the go. You can see everything here is in rands. Basically divide that by 2 and then by 10, and you'll get that. For example, this is around $400. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at here is we're just going to be trying to find a laptop that I think is going to work for people. I think HP is always a good place to start. For laptops, I think an i5 is going to be more than sufficient for your needs. Okay, but just remember that laptops in general are going to be more expensive than the pre-built counterparts, simply because they are portable and they require a bit more finesse to actually work. So for example, this laptop over here is about the same price as our PC here. If not, it's about the same price. Okay, so for example, if we look at this one here, this one is almost comparable to this one in terms of processor. It's almost comparable in terms of resolution. In general, what you want to look at is the. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. What you want to look at is just something that has a decent CPU, an i5 or a Ryzen 5 or more, and you just want to make sure that you have about 16 gigabytes of RAM. So this one over here is kind of like what I would recommend if you were just doing SEO and content writing, all of that. Because remember, time is money, and the hardware that you buy is an investment in the long term. You buy it, you make sure it works for you, and it will serve you very, very well. My laptop I've had for almost 2 years now. It is a MSI Katana. It's got an RTX 3060 and an i7 12700F. No, F, and it works phenomenally. It can do everything I need. I don't need to work on my PC. I can take it where I need to be. It's an incredibly powerful machine. So if you're interested in anything in regards to PCs, try to just take this away from it. i3, if you want, and you're really on a budget, or an i5 is fine. You don't have to go for an i7, and you please do not go for a dual core or a Celeron processor. You don't need more than 16 gigabytes if you have DDR4 RAM. If you can get anything more, excellent, but really for SEO, for web dev, you don't need more than 16 gigs. Always try and get at least a terabyte of storage. If you have a 256 or 12 gigabyte hard drive or NVMe or SSD, try and get some online storage, try and get some additional storage, because programming and files, if you're keeping backups, really take up a lot of space. Power supplies really doesn't matter so long as it powers the machine, and the case doesn't really matter because that's more design and airflow and optimizing than anything else. Guys, I know this was a bit sparse and a bit long. Hope this was informative. Hope this was helpful. I'll see you all tomorrow.